My research journal slips from my hands, its pages scattering across the polished oak floor of Father's study like loose fragments of thought. The newly delivered family portrait, propped against his massive desk, speaks volumes without a single word. There I am. Or rather, barely there. A figure brushed in shadow, blending into the dark mahogany paneling behind the family. Father stands tall and centered, Mother poised beside him, and Vivian shines in golden light, the clear focal point. "Oh, Selene, I didn't realize you were here." Mother's voice drifts from the doorway. I don't turn right away, my eyes fixed on the artist's note in the corner. As requested by the Hammond family, central focus on Vivian, the words seem etched into my vision. The portrait arrived early, I say, steadying my voice despite the tremor in my fingers. Just in time for tonight's dinner. Mother glides in, her polished smile in place, the kind that never reaches her eyes. She stands beside me, nodding with approval. Margaret captured our essence beautifully, don't you think? Our essence, as though my near invisibility is somehow an essential part of who we are as a family. 3 weeks ago, we sat around the dining table planning this very portrait. Father's voice carried across the imported tablecloth. Vivian will be the central figure, the face of Hammond Industries' future. No one questioned it. No one looked my way. Later, as we left, Mother caught my arm. "Wear something simple for the sitting, dear," she had said sweetly, "so you don't distract from your sister." Now, staring at the finished piece, I finally understand what something simple meant. Blend into the background. Why am I hidden in the portrait? I ask softly, not accusingly, but genuinely. 32 years have taught me that direct confrontation only breeds defensiveness. Mother sighs, adjusting a pearl earring. "Don't be dramatic, dear. We all have our roles. Yours just isn't in the spotlight. The casual cruelty lands like a familiar blow. 30 years of similar moments flash before me. Science fair winds ignored, research milestones met with indifference, every achievement eclipsed by Vivian's more marketable successes. My hands steady. With calm precision, I raise my phone and take a photo of the portrait. "What are you doing?" Mother asks, a trace of alarm in her voice. Before I can reply, Father's footsteps echo in the hallway. He enters, eyes brightening at the sight. "Excellent, it's here." He circles the portrait, nodding with approval. Vivian will be thrilled. "Someone fetch her." I stand 3 feet away, yet he does not acknowledge me. Mother shoots me a silent warning. Do not make a scene before tonight's unveiling. I kneel to gather my scattered papers, my movements careful, unhurried. The portrait isn't a revelation. It is confirmation. I am the Hammond who exists in the margins, accepted only if I remain in shadow. Father continues planning the placement, discussing how the lighting should highlight Vivian's prominence. If I protest now, I risk losing even this fragile connection to them. My research grant, funded in part by Father, hangs silently in the balance. He never threatens directly, but disobedience has always carried consequences. I tuck my journal under my arm and straighten. The truth settles on me with quiet clarity. This portrait isn't new. It's simply the first time the truth has been made visible. To them, I am a shadow, an afterthought to the golden child. The real question is whether I will continue to accept it. And for the first time in 32 years, I am not certain I will. Half an hour later, my hand hovers over the doorknob to Vivian's study. I only need her leather portfolio for tonight's event, a simple errand, though it requires a steadying breath. Through the mahogany door, her voice carries clear and confident, "Yes, just feature me and Dad in the magazine spread." My sister isn't really part of the company's story. My hand falls from the knob as though burned. Blood drains from my face, leaving only cold numbness behind. I steady myself against the wall, swallowing hard against the sudden bitterness in my mouth. "We want to keep the focus on the direct line of succession," Vivian continues, her voice calm and polished. "The readers of Business Frontier won't care about a researcher who isn't part of daily operations. I've long suspected. This quiet erasure, seen it in sideways glances and in conversations that stopped when I entered a room. But hearing it stated so plainly, as if my absence is a matter of practicality rather than intent, makes my knees unsteady. The words echo in my head as I walk stiffly back to my room. Every memory reshapes itself. The company newsletter that praised Vivian's community service but ignored my research breakthrough, The annual reports where my work disappeared between drafts. Father's introductions where I became my other daughter, while Vivian received full credentials. These were not mistakes or oversights. They were policy. That evening, the pre-unveiling dinner stretches before me like an elegant trap. Crystal reflects the chandelier's light across white linen. Mother has arranged the seating with exact precision. At the head sit Father, Mother, and Vivian, joined by Thomas Reynolds, editor of Business Frontier. I'm placed far down the table between Cousin Edith, who struggles to hear, and Uncle William, who still asks about my college plans despite my doctorate. Our Vivian has shown remarkable leadership, Father announces, raising his glass. The board has unanimously approved her promotion to executive vice president, effective immediately. Applause fills the room. I join automatically, my body moving on instinct while my mind records another deliberate step in my quiet removal from the family's story. Mother reaches into her evening bag. To mark this special occasion, she says, producing a velvet box, old and familiar. The Hammond sapphires, passed down through generations of Hammond women known for their leadership. I recognize grandmother's necklace instantly. She once told me it would be mine. Because you have the Hammond intelligence. Instead, Mother fastens it around Vivian's neck. The sapphires rest neatly against her collarbone, as if they belong there. Perfect for you to wear at the portrait unveiling, she adds, her eyes flickering deliberately toward me. Reynolds leans forward, dabbing his mouth with his napkin. And you must be... His eyes settle on me with polite detachment. Are you new to the family business? The question lands sharply. I've attended every company function for years, sat across from Reynolds at multiple galas, even discussed his daughter's interest in science. This is Selene, Vivian interrupts before I can answer. My sister. She does some research the foundation supports. Some research, as though mapping neurological responses to targeted treatments were nothing more than a hobby. How lovely, Reynolds replies, already turning back to Father. Later, Mother corners me near the dessert table, her voice low beneath the clinking of silverware. You've been rather quiet tonight. Just observing, I answer. Picking up a chocolate truffle I have no desire to eat. Her smile doesn't quite reach her eyes. Remember, the Foundation Grant Review Committee meets next month. It would be unfortunate if your funding were reconsidered because of any drama tonight. The warning is soft in tone, but impossible to miss. My lab lease, my team's salaries, and years of research all depend on family-controlled funding, something they could take away with a single word. I understand, I reply, though the chocolate in my mouth tastes like ash. For a moment, I think about not attending the unveiling at all. What if the shadow in the portrait didn't appear in person? Would anyone even notice my absence? Or would it simply confirm what the painting already declares, that I'm an afterthought, barely worthy of recognition? As the guests drift toward the grand hall for the unveiling, a hand lightly touches my elbow. I turn to find Margaret, the portrait artist. Her eyes are warm beneath her silver hair. They insisted on the composition, she says quietly. I tried to capture your dignity despite their instructions. Her words strike me like a tuning fork, resonating with unexpected clarity. This small act of artistic defiance, preserving something genuine about me against my family's demands, feels like the most authentic moment I've experienced all evening. Thank you, I whisper, surprisingly moved. As I thank Margaret, I wonder whether to speak up at the unveiling or simply walk away from my family altogether. Would causing a scene finally make them acknowledge me, or would disappearing from both the portrait and their lives send the stronger message? 3 days later, while I'm at work, a notification flashes on my phone as I review lab results. It's Vivian's social media post. Finally, a family image that shows everyone in their rightful place. The post includes a cropped preview of the portrait, her glowing in golden light, while I fade into the background shadows. My phone buzzes nonstop as messages flood in. Oh, honey, I just saw the portrait preview. Are you okay? Dr. Williams from Father's Golf Club. Always thought your family dynamics were interesting. Even my mother's bridge partner sends a comment. Some families have such unusual ways of showing appreciation. Their pity cuts like tiny paper slices, sharp enough to sting, but too trivial to answer one by one. I set my phone face down and return to the microscope, though my hands tremble slightly, blurring the slide's focus. The final blow comes with my mother's perfectly timed phone call. "Darling, North Shore Magazine will be interviewing us right after the unveiling. They want to discuss the future of Hammond Industries leadership." Her voice rises with rehearsed enthusiasm. Such wonderful exposure for Vivian. "And what about my contribution through research?" I ask, surprising even myself with the question. A pause, short but telling. "Well, that's not really the focus of the article, dear. Not the focus." Never the focus. The next morning at the lab, Dr. Franklin sets the annual Hammond Foundation report on my desk, his finger resting on the research achievements section. "Selene, why isn't your name listed here? Your bioregeneration study was funded almost entirely by your family's foundation." I scan the page, noting every researcher except myself credited for the work we accomplished together. The omission feels deliberate, almost violent. "This is an oversight, doctor," Franklin says, his weathered face tightening with concern. "This is erasure." The word reverberates through me. Erasure. That's exactly what they've been doing, systematically removing traces of my contributions, my achievements, my very presence within the family story. That evening, I cancel dinner with Vivian, citing a headache. It's partly true. Family gatherings have become physically draining. My stomach knots at the thought, my breathing shallow around them. The symptoms started years ago, but intensified after discovering the portrait. Rather than endure another evening of carefully staged diminishment, I spread my journals across the apartment floor. Page after page records my gradual removal. Photographs where I've been positioned at the edges, easily cropped out. Newspaper clippings highlighting my accomplishments. My name deliberately omitted from family quotes. Emails about company events where my role is never mentioned. I construct a digital timeline, meticulously organizing the evidence. 3 decades of systematic erasure documented with precision. Once assembled, the pattern is undeniable. 2 days before the unveiling ceremony, the unexpected occurs. Barbara, father's secretary of 26 years, corners me in an empty hallway at Hammond Industries headquarters. "Take this," she whispers, sliding a manila folder into my hands. "Don't mention where you got it." Inside are yellowed newspaper clippings, my science fair victories, research breakthroughs, academic honors, all carefully preserved. On one, father's handwriting notes. Selene's approach to cellular regeneration shows remarkable insight. "He notices more than he shows," Barbara whispers before disappearing around the corner. The folder feels heavy, not with vindication, but with a complicated awareness. Recognition withheld is a deliberate choice, not an accident. 2 days later, the dressing room hums with activity before the ceremony. Mother adjusts Vivian's emerald necklace while makeup artists apply the final touches. I stand by the window in the charcoal gray dress I chose against Mother's advice for something more subdued. "Selene, there you are!" Mother approaches, her eyes flicking over my outfit with barely concealed disapproval. "When the photographs begin, please stand at the back. The magazine wants to focus on the direct line of succession. The direct line. As if I'm some distant relative, not their firstborn daughter. Something shifts inside me, tectonic after years of pressure. The trembling in my hand stops. I've been standing in the back my entire life, I say, steady and clear. "I won't do it anymore." Mother's smile falters. "This isn't dramatics, it's demanding basic recognition." Words flow naturally now, waiting years to be spoken. I'm Hammond Industries research director. My work has secured 3 patents for this company. I exist, Mother, whether you choose to see me or not. For once, she has no prepared response. Silence stretches, carrying 32 years of unspoken truths. "Selene," she finally says, softer, uncertain. "What do you want?" "To be acknowledged," I answer. Not placed in front, not given special treatment, just not deliberately erased. Recognition, or at least the first awareness of it, flickers across her face. Before she can respond, the door opens. "Doctor?" Franklin enters, followed by 6 members of my research team, all in formal attire. "Sorry to intrude," he says, though his expression suggests otherwise. "We wanted to support our department head at this event." Mother blinks, confused. "Department head?" "Yes," Franklin says firmly. "Selene is the brilliant mind behind our breakthrough in cellular regeneration, the work securing Hammond Industries its largest research grant to date." My team forms a protective semicircle around me, a visible manifestation of my value beyond the family narrative. The ceremony begins in 15 minutes, an event coordinator announces. I nod, feeling taller somehow. When I catch my reflection in the mirror, I barely recognize myself. Shoulders straight, chin lifted, eyes unwavering. For the first time in years, I hold my mother's gaze without looking away. In my purse lies a folded speech, ready whether I am invited to speak or not. The front page of a scientific journal, embargoed until tomorrow, details a major grant my team earned independently of Hammond family influence. The coordinator returns. They are ready for the family. Mother instinctively extends her hand, expecting me to follow as always. Instead, I turn to my team. Shall we? Together, we move toward the grand hall. As the ceremony begins, I take an unexpected seat in the front row rather than my designated spot in the back, feeling the weight of stares, my family's confusion, and my colleagues' quiet approval. Sometimes, a shadow must step into the light to be acknowledged as a person. I slip my phone from my evening bag, angling it discreetly beneath the table. The camera catches Father physically moving me aside as the photographer arranges the Hammond family in a semicircle around the portrait. No one questions his hands on my shoulders as he positions me 3 steps back from where Vivienne stands under professional lighting. Perfect, the photographer declares. Now, just the immediate family. Immediate family as if 32 years of Hammond blood somehow makes me less immediate than the rest. Mother, father, Vivienne center, please, the photographer instructs. I capture it all. Every dismissal, every erasure. The shutter remains silent as I document my systematic removal from my own family narrative. When Father's palm presses against my back, guiding me farther from the portrait, heat and anger rise from my stomach to my chest. Selene, Margaret, the portrait artist, appears beside me, champagne flute in hand. I've been watching. Her eyes meet mine, professionalism faltering to reveal something like empathy. I'm sorry, the composition wasn't my choice. I nod once, throat tight. I know. From the makeshift stage, Vivienne's voice carries across the room. As the only Hammond pursuing meaningful achievement in the company, her words drift over murmurs of approval, and I capture this too. The lie frozen in digital permanence. Margaret winces. Your sister certainly has presence. She's had plenty of practice, I reply, my voice steadier than my trembling hands. Vivienne finishes her speech to enthusiastic applause, and then notices me near the back wall. Her eyes narrow, imperceptible to most, but unmistakable to anyone familiar with years of sisterly combat. Selene, are you still hanging around? Her voice is just loud enough for nearby ears. Something shifts. Thomas Reynolds, the magazine editor hovering near Father all evening, suddenly turns toward me. Hammond? Selene Hammond, he says, testing the name. I don't believe we've been properly introduced. What exactly do you do in the family business? The question hangs, a trap or an opportunity. I'm unsure which. I don't work for Hammond Industries, I reply, my voice finding unexpected strength. I lead biomedical research at Northridge Institute. We're developing targeted protein therapies for neurodegenerative conditions. Reynolds raises an eyebrow. Protein therapies like the work that won the Lasker Award last year? Similar approach, different application. The words flow now, natural and practiced from countless research presentations. Our focus is on preventing protein misfolding in early-onset Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. I watch 3 board members drift closer. Drinks momentarily forgotten. Eleanor Whitfield surprises me with a highly technical question about our methodology. As I respond, I notice my father's gaze fixed on our growing circle. When Reynolds suddenly inquires about my biomedical research, I face a choice. Should I downplay my work as I've been trained to, or take this moment to step into the spotlight? Sometimes opportunity appears in the form of a passing remark. Miss Hammond's work is genuinely impressive. Dr. Franklin's voice cuts through as he approaches. I hadn't expected him until later. Her team has just been awarded a major research grant, one of the largest in the field this year. Father's head snaps toward the announcement. National Science Foundation, Doctor, Franklin continues, somehow making eye contact with each board member in turn. They don't fund speculative work. The review panel described her approach as potentially transformative. Barbara, Father's longtime secretary, appears with her tablet. I was just looking for the speech notes, but opened the wrong folder, she says, tilting the screen toward Eleanor Whitfield. On it are some of Selene's early achievements. State science champion 3 years running. First published paper at 19. The photos, glowing on the screen, show a younger version of me holding trophies Father never displayed. I had no idea. Reynolds turns to father, who has finally joined our group. William, why isn't Hammond Industries highlighting Selene's work in your innovation materials? This is precisely the kind of cutting-edge research that elevates a corporate profile. Father clears his throat. Selene's work is separate from our core business. Though it relates to the medical division, Eleanor counters, the protein folding applications alone could revolutionize your pharmaceutical pipeline. A flush creeps up father's neck as more guests gather around. Drawn into our conversation, Vivian stands forgotten near the portrait, champagne glass clutched tightly in manicured fingers. Perhaps we should move on to the portrait unveiling, father announces abruptly, voice steady with practiced authority. If everyone would please gather around, but no one moves. For the first time, William Hammond's directive falters. Board members and guests continue pressing me with questions about my research. Father's eyes meet mine across the circle. Something shifts there, frustration, confusion, or perhaps the faintest recognition that the daughter he pushed into the shadows may not stay there any longer. Father corners me by the refreshment table, gripping my elbow with unexpected urgency. The portrait unveiling is minutes away, yet the desperation in his eyes doesn't match his controlled smile. Selene, I've been thinking, he says quietly, ensuring our conversation remains private. We could commission a separate portrait of you for the research division hallway. I notice his eyes flicking toward the cluster of board members who have unexpectedly gathered around Dr. Franklin. They nod attentively as he outlines my latest research protocol. A separate portrait? I repeat, observing my father's forced smile tightening at the edges. Yes, something that highlights your academic achievements. His fingers grip my arm briefly. Something suitable for the science wing. Appropriate, segregated, tucked away where the important people won't have to see it. That's generous of you, I reply, keeping my tone even. He leans closer, the familiar scent of his cologne suddenly overwhelming. Remember who pays your lab's building lease? The threat is no longer subtle. It hangs between us openly. This pattern has repeated for 30 years. Inclusion only comes with compliance. The family portrait was merely the most visible example. About that, I say softly, freeing my arm from his hold. Dr. Franklin approaches, interrupting at precisely the right moment. He hands me a cream-colored envelope, embossed with the National Science Foundation logo. It arrived this morning, he says, unable to hide his smile. I thought you might want it for tonight. Father's eyes narrow as I break the seal and unfold the letter. The grant amount, $8 million over 5 years, stares back in bold black ink. I've been awarded the Biomedical Innovation Grant, I announce, locking eyes with my father. Full funding, independent oversight. The significance sinks in. I no longer need to be in your portrait to be noticed. I am... His face pales momentarily, the mask of control slipping before he quickly regains composure. Well, that's unexpected news for you, perhaps. I slip the letter into my pocket. This achievement is the result of years of effort. The Master of Ceremonies announces that the portrait unveiling will begin shortly. Father adjusts his tie, a rare, nervous gesture. We should continue this discussion later, he says, stepping back. There's nothing more to discuss. I move toward the main hall where guests are gathering. Mother fusses with the velvet covering draped over the massive portrait, while Vivienne poses nearby for photographs. The technician I had spoken to earlier gives me a subtle nod. When called to speak before the unveiling, I approach the podium with steady steps. Mother looks confused. I wasn't on the schedule. The Hammond legacy has always been about vision, I begin, so I'd like to share my vision tonight. I press the small remote in my hand. Behind me, the wall opposite the portrait lights up with a projection, a digital montage of my scientific journey. Lab images, team photos, breakthrough moments captured over years of work my family never witnessed. Mother gestures frantically to stop the presentation, but Reynolds steps in, his attention fixed on the images. While the Hammond portrait presents one perspective of our family, I continue, my voice stronger than ever in this house. I wanted to show another reality, one that exists beyond these walls. The final slide displays next month's Scientific American cover mock-up, featuring our lab's breakthrough treatment protocol. Reynolds' media group publishes the magazine, and Mother's face drains of color. Sometimes the most meaningful portraits aren't painted in oils, I say, but in the impact we leave on the world. Applause erupts, led by Dr. Franklin, spreading throughout the room. Board members and guests drift toward my presentation, asking questions about the research, While the family portrait sits momentarily forgotten under its velvet cover, I catch fragments of conversation as I move through the crowd. Is she starting her own foundation? The Hammond girl's research could surpass the family business in 5 years. Why isn't she more involved in the company? Father stands alone by the portrait, expression unreadable, his gaze shifting between the covered painting and my digital presentation. For 32 years, I've searched his face for any sign of approval or pride. Tonight, I realize it no longer matters what he thinks. As I answer a board member's question about clinical trials, Vivian approaches from behind. Her fingers brush my arm. Her voice drops to a whisper only I can hear. We need to talk privately, later. Her eyes hold something I've never seen before. Uncertainty, maybe even fear. In that moment, the golden child suddenly seems tarnished under the light of my independence. I simply nod and turn back to my conversation, leaving her to wonder what I might say when we finally speak as equals. 6 months after the portrait unveiling, I stand before 24 investors in my expanded research facility. The polished presentation remote feels natural in my hand now. No trembling, no hesitation. Sunlight streams through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the space I designed myself. The Hammond cellular regeneration protocol shows unprecedented success in clinical trials. I advance to a slide with recovery statistics. We expect FDA approval next quarter. Dr. Franklin catches my eye from the back row, giving a subtle nod. Once, I would have stared at my shoes, my voice barely audible. Now, I command attention with the quiet confidence of someone fully seen. Behind my desk, a wall displays milestones and awards alongside a small, tasteful photo of my parents, not looming over me as before, but equal parts of my life's tapestry. The arrangement speaks volumes to anyone fluent in visual hierarchy. Any questions? I ask, meeting each investor's gaze directly. Later, I arrive at Father's birthday celebration at the family estate. The familiar knot in my stomach has eased since my last visit. Selene, come join the family photo, Mother calls, gesturing to the usual arrangement. Vivian, front and center. Father beams beside her, leaving a small space for me tucked behind them. Everyone squeeze together, the photographer instructs. Miss Hammond, could you step back? You're blocking your sister, he adds. I smile, planting my feet firmly. Actually, I'm comfortable right where I am. A moment of tension passes. Mother's eyes widen slightly. Father's jaw tightens, the subtle signals I've learned over decades. But instead of confrontation, something remarkable happens. Father shifts slightly to create space. Mother adjusts. The photographer recalibrates. The world doesn't end. The portrait simply reconfigures around me rather than excluding me. Perfect, says the photographer, capturing the new family alignment. The following week, Margaret raises her glass across a small table at Romano's, my favorite restaurant. To being seen clearly by those whose vision matters, she says, her artist's eyes crinkling. Barbara, who once slipped me a folder of newspaper clippings, adds, I knew you had it in you. Dr. Franklin nods silently, the mentor who recognized my potential long before I claimed it myself. 2 weeks later, in a sunlit studio across town, I sit for my own portrait. The artist captures me in my natural environment, lab coat draped casually, research team visible through glass partitions, working on the projects that define my life. My assistant says the Science Leadership Conference wants you to deliver the keynote, I'm reminded. I notice a young researcher at the door, journal in hand, the third this month seeking guidance from the woman who refused to stay in the shadows. Back in my office that evening, I open a small package. Inside is a miniature version of the infamous family portrait that once weighed on me. I place it on my desk, not central, not prominent, just one frame among many. Arranged between my latest publication and a photo of my team celebrating a breakthrough, it prompts a reflection. Does true freedom come from earning acceptance from those who once dismissed you, or from no longer needing it at all? What would you choose? To keep seeking recognition from those who overlooked you, or to build a life where new eyes fully appreciate your worth?